So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ELTAI, I welcome you all for this webinar titled Supporting Learners Effectively. So before we move on to the webinar, I request the participants to watch a promo clip of ELTAI. Here it is for you. So dear participants, thank you for watching the promo clip of ELTAI. I have a few instructions to the participants. First is regarding the chat. We have a chat facility here. So in course of the presentation, or maybe whenever you get some questions, you can write the questions on the chat. Those questions should be carefully read and will be answered by the resource person during the question and answer session. The second thing is about your certificates. Of course, you'll have to fill a form, and people who attend the sessions will get your certificates. And if you have any problems in terms of certificates, please write to us. We'll definitely reach your certificates on time. And I again request participants to not share your personal details like your phone numbers or email ID on the chat. Thank you so much. So we have Dr. Soosai Rathinam. He's an English teacher and one of the active members of ELTAI, who is moderating this session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. We once again welcome you all for our 97th webinar on supporting learners effectively. And now let me have the pleasure of introducing our today's resource person, Ms. Meena Sridharan. Ms. Meena is a training consultant and has over 30 years of teaching and training experience. She has worked all over India and overseas. She is a training consultant with the British Council state government projects which have covered almost all the Indian states. She was a visiting faculty at IIM Ahmedabad as well as Flame School of Business in Pune. She was closely associated with the Regional English Language Office of the US State Department. She works extensively with the NGOs and teachers of economically backward students. Ms. Meena is passionate about teacher development and is constantly exploring new avenues of learning, both for herself and for teachers. We welcome you, ma'am, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Soosai, and thank you, Sam. Good evening to everyone. So without any further ado, let me start the topic, which is supporting learners effectively. I must make a disclaimer here. This is a very vast topic, so I'll be looking only at certain aspects of how we support learners. Another worrisome factor for me today is where I'm located. There is a thunderstorm going on. So suddenly, if you see me vanish from the screen, don't worry, I'll be back within a few seconds. Okay, so let's look at the slides. Here we are, supporting learners effectively. Now, before we get into the specifics, I would like you to look at this image. Take a good look at this image. What is it telling you? What do you think it is? What message does this image convey to you? Can you quickly put your answers in the chat box? What is this image telling you? Whatever thoughts come into your head. I want some quick answers, please. Fastest finger first. Look at the man. What is he doing? What has he got in his hand? What do you see behind him? Yes, any answers?
Ma'am, participants are using the chat. There are many answers in the chat.
Okay. I cannot see the chat box.
On the chat, ma'am, you're on the slides. Just click on the chat icon.
Yeah, I've got it. Okay, the person who has reached the height of success. Okay. Practice makes perfect. All right, you're getting there. Juggling, correct. Try again. Juggling, multitasking. He's showing what is successful. Juggler is getting success. Failure makes success. All right. All right, that's a good point. Failure makes success. Practice makes perfect. All right. It's a demo of multitasking. Okay, to some extent, you're right. Okay, good. Successful. A lot of people have said successful. Now, I'd like you to keep this in mind. When you said successful, please keep it aside and we'll park this point about success and failure because we're going to come back to it. And we're going to examine these two aspects. Yeah, before a victory comes failure. After loads of effort, juggling has become possible. Thank you, everyone, for your very good responses. I won't make any comments on how right or wrong it is at the moment. We'll just carry on and then we'll come back to your answers. All right. So let's move on. Before we get again into the nitty-gritty of our presentation, these are our learning outcomes for the day. So by the end of this session, we would have explored how we can develop a classroom culture where mistakes are viewed as pathways to learning, where we know that it's okay to make mistakes. And secondly, we have understood how to make our praise of learners more effective in order to define progress. So again, please look at the keywords here: mistakes, pathways to learning, and praise, effective, and defining progress. So these are our key points for the day. So before I'm leading up to it. Here's a little story, an anecdote about Disneyland. Who doesn't know Disneyland and how popular it is? So the inaugural day of Disneyland was in 1955. Yuki Terada has recounted a story here. When it opened, it was a disaster because 15,000 people were expected, but nearly 30,000 people came in. So there were long lines, there were malfunctioning rides, there was a shortage of food, and on top of everything, a tiger and a panther escaped. So everyone was terrified. So that day was dubbed as Black Sunday. It was a Sunday, so it was dubbed as Black Sunday by the employees and by the press. But Walt Disney took it all in his stride, and he said, if you do big things, you make big mistakes. So there's a lesson here as well. All these are just things for you to think about. So how do you create a mistake-friendly environment in your classroom? Here there are two quotations. One is from Maria Montessori and the second is from Ken Robinson. Both are very well-known figures. Maria Montessori, I'm sure you all know about Montessori system of education. Ken Robinson, British educationist, very, very liberal and forward-thinking. So here are two quotations. I'll give you a minute to just read them, and then you can express your feelings about these two quotations. So you cultivate a friendly feeling towards mistakes and you treat it as a companion which is inseparable from your life. This is something which has a purpose. That's what Maria Montessori says. And Ken Robinson says we stigmatize mistakes. We cannot really go through life and people stigmatize mistakes. They don't look at it in a positive way. And we are running national educational systems where mistakes are the worst thing you can make. And the result is we are educating people out of their creative capacities. So there are lots of key words here and a lot of key thoughts here. One is that mistakes are inseparable from our lives. So they have a purpose. That's what Maria Montessori said. Yes, and I'm getting some responses here. Mistakes are crucial. They help us learn more than our success. Very good. If you do big things, you make big mistakes. Correct. The second point here is that we stigmatize mistakes. All of us are frightened of making mistakes and we criticize mistakes. And then we are educating people out of creative capacity. So when we are living in fear of mistakes, our creative capacities also are limited. So how do you create a mistake-friendly classroom? So creating a mistake-friendly classroom, it will help students to develop skills and then develop a mindset, a growth mindset where you accept and you learn from failure. So here's a question for all of you. What strategies do you use in your classroom while dealing with mistakes? So here, all of you are teachers or trainers. What strategies do you use in your classroom? Can I get some responses to this question, please? In your classroom, what strategies do you use when your learners make mistakes? Yes, right, Saraswati. Mistakes are the ones which build us. Let's get some answers to this question. Mistakes ensure growth. Mistakes are masters. What do you do as a teacher? Okay, ask learners to help each other. Okay. Sign of learning. Fine. Yes, Anand, there are no mistakes. Have patience. Give them constructive feedback. All right, find more alternatives. Very good. Commend them for their response. Fantastic. Celebrate mistakes as stepping stones. Give feedback. All right. Embrace and correct mistakes. Opportunities for learning. All right, everyone's on the right track. My question was, what do you use in your classroom? So let's go forward and look at what we can do in the classroom while dealing with mistakes. Okay. So here we have some strategies for a mistake-friendly classroom. There are 4 points. One is to acknowledge the fear of public failure. So all of us have this fear of looking ridiculous, of losing face. So somebody's just type saying, make mistakes confidently. That's a very good point, actually, because there you're acknowledging the fear of public failure. So we have to replace all our negative thoughts and say, I am learning, instead of saying, I am incapable or I am wrong. The second point is work in the zone of proximal development. All of you would be aware of ZPD. The ZPD is where you develop from taking guidance in your skills to working without guidance in your skills. So the support of people like mentors or peers or experienced teachers, these can help you work towards progress. Otherwise, you'd be heading towards failure. Then you have to, as a teacher, stimulate passion and curiosity. If the students are passionate and if they're interested in what they are doing, then definitely they are more likely to be motivated. There, even if they make mistakes, they keep forcing themselves to carry on because they look at it as something which they want to achieve or what they want to do. And the last one is to use reinforcing language to build a culture where it's okay to make mistakes. Now, what do we mean by reinforcing language? We use supportive language, we use scaffolding expressions to reassure students that it's okay to make a mistake in the classroom. So here we have a table. There are strategies on the left and examples on the right, but they are jumbled. What you need to do is to figure out which strategy matches which example and put it in the chat box. For example, 1 is what, 2 is what. Can you just put the number and the alphabet in the chat box? For example, I'll do one for you. The first one, adapt the learning context, is D. Let's try this another way. So what about 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6? Can you find out the matching example for these strategies? Let's see what you have to say. Yes, for encourage persistence, which one would you have? Which example would you have? For 2. And then to model self-compassion. Can you put in your answers, please? Okay, I'll just carry on since people are not coming up with answers.
Ma'am, no,
the chat.
The participants are writing the answer in the chat. Yeah.
The chat.
I can't see the answers. I can only see other answers.
Just scroll the chat, ma'am. It's there.
Yeah.
I think most of the points have been answered. People have answered all those. They've matched all 1 to 6. Just click on the chat and just scroll down.
Yeah, I've scrolled to the bottom.
You know, take it to the top, man.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's coming. I think it's a little slower here.
Yeah, maybe because of the connectivity.
Yeah. Okay, 3E, 3A, all kinds of varied answers we're getting. 6E. Okay, 6E, all right, lot of 6Es. 3A, 2F, 4, B. All right. Yeah, a lot of spot on answers. 3A. Okay, what about 5? I don't see any 5s here. All right, let's look at the answers here anyway. Okay, here you have the answers. Now there is a lot of overlap. These are not written in stone, so you do have some overlap, but these are the general examples for these certain strategies. Okay, everyone, adapt the learning context. Let's try this another way. Because if you find that a learner is struggling with something, then you don't just, tell the learner what to do. You say, let us try this another way. You make it a collaborative effort with the student. Let us try this another way. Encourage persistence. There it's fairly simple. Keep trying, don't give up. I'm sure many of you use this strategy. Model self-compassion. Now, this is a very important aspect. Everyone is hard on themselves. We as teachers are very hard on ourselves, and we are hard on our students as well. We set very high standards for everyone. So be kind to yourself. When you're confused, it's okay. So when you have students who are anxious, you have to deal with the anxiety and say, be kind to yourself. It's okay. Build positive relationships with the learners. So I see your strengths. I believe in you. These are all very good expressions which you can use. Let's figure it out together. Again, when you say let's figure it out together, you are not the sage on the stage who's giving instructions. You are saying let's do this together. So in a way, you're also demonstrating that you also need to find out what it is. If it's a very complicated problem or a math problem, and you say, let's figure it out together, it gives the learner a sense of agency. It gives them a sense of togetherness that, my teacher is with me in finding this out. Supporting resilience. I know this is tough, but you will find your way. This is also a kind of vindication. It's a confirmation of your belief in your learner. I know this is tough, but you will find your way. Sharing your own vulnerability. Here, this is again a very important point. Oops, I made a mistake. So when you are not afraid to demonstrate that you as a teacher can also make mistakes, then automatically it motivates the student as well. They lose that fear of failure slowly starts going, okay, so my teacher is also, capable of making mistakes and forgetting or making careless mistakes. So then it's okay. I can try it again. So these are all just general examples, very simple, common sense examples for common sense strategies. So again, here's a question. I'm sure all of you use many of these strategies in your classrooms, but which of these strategies and supporting language would you like to use in your classroom? Which of these? I'm bringing up the table again for you. So which of these would you personally use in your classroom? Just one example from everybody. Whether it's building relationships or whether it's modeling self-compassion, just give me the number which you would like to use. Okay. I'm still getting answers. Sam, I think my chat keeps freezing.
And they're answering, maybe because of connectivity. Sometimes it happens.
Yeah. The weather is really bad here.
Yeah, maybe that's the reason.
Yeah.
Otherwise, many of them answered 4, 6, 8. Sorry, 8, not B, it's B,
I'm
not
not.
A.
I'm still getting the answers for the jumble.
Yeah, people
Okay.
are answering, man.
Yeah.
Some say all. Some people say all.
Okay. I can't see those. They are still coming. Your answers are still coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Many people seem to say, I like your, I see your strengths.
4 and 6.
Okay. 4 and 6 are popular.
Yeah, think some of them said 4 and 6. Two is also popular.
To encouraging persistence. Okay, very good. All right. Okay, thank you everyone for your responses. I'm going to move on now. So here we have also looked at the strategies which we would like to use in the classroom. So finally, to sum up this subsection on failure, which is going to lead to effective praise, we must understand that unless we experience the unpleasant symptoms of being wrong, the mind will never revise its models. So as Samuel Beckett, the famous playwright, said, ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better. So he says, whatever I tried and wherever I failed, no matter, try again, but fail better. So when we look at how we are supporting students in the classroom through their mistakes, then what is the most important thing there which we need to do? Our feedback and our support of them becomes very important. So how can we praise our students or give them very effective feedback? So here we are moving into effective praise. So what is effective, quote unquote, what is effective praise according to you? Give me two qualities which according to you are effective praise. Sam and Soosai, I need your help with the chat box because it's coming very slowly. I'm getting the answers only now for the previous question.
Sure, ma'am.
Sure.
People say like great saying, constructive. These are the answers. Positive, encouragement.
Okay, let me rephrase this question. What words would you use for effective praise? How would you praise effectively? Two qualities of effective praise. Yes, any answers?
Again, people say it's encouragement, encouraging. I think
Okay.
you have to repeat the question even more in a simple way, man, because they've understood. Some says well done.
Okay.
A good attempt.
Yeah, excellent.
All right.
Well done.
That was a good response.
Okay.
Well done. That's great.
All right. I'm just listening to all the answers. I'm not commenting on anything.
Good job.
Good job. Okay.
Give your best. Outstanding. You nailed it.
You nailed it. Uh-huh.
Keep it up. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to actually what is effective praise. So here we have generic praise and we have this slightly damaging quotation from John Hattie. John Hattie, Visible Learning, I'm sure everybody knows. If you don't know, I think it's good to find out who he is. So he's written this blog with Helen Timperley called The Power of Feedback. And he's made this really damaging statement about praise. He says praise usually contains little task-related information, meaning there is hardly any task-related information. And it is rarely converted into more engagement, commitment to learning goals, enhanced self-efficacy, or understanding about the task. So he has just kind of swept praise under the carpet. He says there is no task-related information and we don't have any kind of engagement or, any kind of fulfillment of learning goals in this kind of praise which we give. So now how do we counter this? How do we make it more effective? How do we make praise move from this generic good, very good, well done, good job, and how do we give specific feedback against our learning goals? Our praise should signal to students that they are going in the right direction with whatever task we have given them. And it should also define exactly what skills they need to develop. So this is one of the qualities of effective praise. So move out of this generic words like good, well done, and excellent and give them specific praise. So we have three types of praise here. These are just classifications which are very broad. So first is personal praise. So here we tend to focus on the natural talent of the person or the student. So you have such a beautiful singing voice, or you're so good with your hands. So when we give personal praise, it kind of limits the praise to only what they have by nature. So you're not, promoting any kind of creative risk over there. Students feel happy and complacent, and that's it. It stops there. It doesn't go beyond that. Next is effort-based praise. Here you are emphasizing what the student is doing. So effort-based praise doesn't say you have such a beautiful singing voice. Effort-based praise says, I am so impressed at how hard you worked to sing that song without looking at the lyrics. So here you are actually saying what they have done well instead of saying you have a beautiful voice. So this is effort-based praise. And the third type of praise is behavior-specific praise. This is the most important aspect of effective praise. So this is called evidence-based behavior-specific praise, which is called BSP for short. It's an evidence-based strategy. And here you're providing specific feedback to describe the student behavior. So you are telling them exactly what they have done well. So you're giving specific details there in your praise. So to make this more clear, let's look at more examples and we'll practice it together. Okay, so how do you implement effective praise? So Daniel Willingham, who is a cognitive psychologist, he has made a series of observations about praise and how it has effects in the classroom, its consequences in the classroom. So the first observation or the first target area is to be specific. So you target specific areas to praise. Use evidence-based behavior-specific praise or BSP. So take the guesswork out of good job or well done. What does this mean? When you look at a student's work and you say good job, well done, yeah, they feel happy, yes, but you're not specifying what is well done, what is the good job. So that is why there is a lot of guesswork. Student might be wondering, I wrote it in such a dirty handwriting, but still she's saying good job. That's because you think what she has written, the content is good. So it will be better to be specific there. So how do you practice behavior specific praise with reinforcing language? Here we have some situations for you. A student writes an essay in which she supports her argument clearly with factual evidence. Which would you say? There are two options here. Anu, you have written a good essay, well done. This is option A. Option B is, Anu, you included lots of specific details and facts to support your position. This makes your writing more persuasive. Well done. Now tell me which is the better option in your opinion. You're praising, both are praise. But which one do you think is a better option? A or B?
Yeah, many B's, ma'am.
A lot of B's?
People. Yeah.
Why am I not able to see? There's still a lot of lag, I think. The answer
Might be. Yeah. So almost all B's.
All B's. Okay, that was a simple option, isn't it? Not very difficult to decide here. But can you see the difference between A and B? You have written a good essay, well done, and you included lots of specific details, and your writing is more persuasive, well done. So here you have given the detailed aspects of what is good about the well done part of it. Now, this was an easy way to do it. Now, let me give you one more practice example. A student finds several ways to practice the speech he will be making at the school assembly next week. Please note, he has practiced it in several different ways, okay? You have noticed it. You as the teacher, you have noticed this. So the question for you is, what behavior-specific praise will you give this student? And it's always better to address the student by name. So you can name the student. What BSP will you give the student? Yeah, are these the answers for this one? It's good, but you can try still more. Sam?
Shanmugapriya says encouragement. You with, I don't know. Raghavendra says you with. I don't understand what is you with.
You're making good progress.
Okay.
Hima says you're making good progress. Good attempt. Keep it up, dear.
Good effort.
Great job. Wow. Do you think these are all specific, behavior specific praises? My question is, if you look at the previous slide, you chose option B, isn't it, all of you? And option B had a lot of specific details and facts. Now, what about here? What behavior specific praise will you give the student? Okay, for example, a student, he has found several ways to practice the speech. Now, let's assume his name is Ravi. Okay, so you look at Ravi and you say, yes, Ravi, I noticed that you were practicing by recording yourself and that you also practiced along with your friend. So that's a very good way to make it perfect. Well done. So when you find that he has used 2 or 3 different ways of practicing, then you make it specific and you give behavior specific praise. It's not so difficult. You just have to notice the ways in which they are making effort and then highlight those methods of making effort. Okay, now let's move on to the next aspect. How do you implement effective praise? The second one, the first one was be specific. The second one was do not use directive praise. For example, you don't say good. You should draw like this every day. When you do that, you're limiting the learner and you're not offering any freedom. Instead of that, you use descriptive praise. For example, the student has colored, this child has colored the sun in a blue color. So you don't say, why have you put blue there? You should put yellow. You don't do that. You say, I see you've colored the sun blue. That's so innovative. Can you tell me why? So now when you do that, you're encouraging learners to reflect on what they've done. And you also encourage them to take more and more creative risks. Remember what Ken Robinson said, that we are killing creativity. So here you are encouraging creativity. So again, you have a situation here. What supportive language can you use in this situation as descriptive praise? So the situation is 2 students have used their own time out of the classroom and they've researched the answer to a question which has stumped the whole class. Nobody's found the answer. These 2 have done a lot of work outside. So what can you say instead of, well done, you too? This is the answer. If you say, well done, you too, that's a generic praise. What could you say to these 2 students? What words can you use? Yes, answers, please. Yes, I'm still getting the first options A or B. What are the answers to this? Any answers?
Yeah, your efforts are appreciable, very
Okay.
impressive and encouraging.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I expected this from you too.
Okay. That's a good answer, actually. Yeah, your efforts are appreciable. You have taken the trouble to use your own time. Then you can say, well done, you too. So if you notice, the well done, you too stays there, but there is a lot of detail which goes before it. Now, this is an important aspect of effective praise. We come back to the image which we saw in the beginning, and you gave us your thoughts about this. What is this image telling you? So, what does it convey? Focus on progress and process, not the outcome or the product. So this is extremely important for us to remember when we are praising students. Focus on the progress, focus on the amount of hard work which they have put in, and not on the outcome or the product. This is actually an image from his own Twitter feed, Daniel Willingham's Twitter feed, and the title caption was, "People only see the end result." So think about the juggler, think about the steps, and think about how much difficulty he has had in reaching the top here. So many broken plates until he has finally achieved it. So instead of just saying, well done, you're able to juggle the plates, you praise the effort he has put into going up all those steps and finally demonstrating the juggle in front of the audience. Yes? So think about the praise which we will give for students who are putting in a lot of effort. So here we have 4 statements. Look at these 4 statements. Decide if they are product or process. So you have to say A, what is it? B, what is it? Is it product or process? And which of these do you think you would use in your classroom? So the first one, A, is it process or product? B, is it process or product? C, process or product? D, process or product? Can you just list out your answers?
B
I'm
and
getting
C,
a lot of
A,
answers
B,
now.
B and C, A
Yeah.
product, B process,
Mm-hmm. C?
B, no, almost, yeah, A, C, D is product, B process, C process, B, C,
C, is it process or product?
C is process. That's what the answer which
Yeah.
I,
Okay. And D?
A, D are product and B and C process. That's what one.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, it's quite easy to, now we know how to differentiate, isn't it? So you've written a good essay, good job, good job, written a good essay. Why is it good? Why are you saying good job? There's no indication at all. So that is product. You're only praising what has been finished. Then the second one, your ideas are clearly expressed. You've used paragraphs. So it's a good job. So you're appreciating the process. You have marked the climatic regions on your map very neatly. Very good. Again, appreciating the process. Excellent map work. So again, no indication, no details about why it is excellent map work. So that is how we have product and process praise. Another aspect is to keep your praise sincere and truthful. Students realize when you're not being sincere. So when they know that you have not done a good job and then you tell them, oh, great, excellent, awesome, they know that you're not being sincere and then they start wondering, am I really that good? So don't use overpraise, exaggerated language because hyperbole does not sound sincere at all. And students and learners, they are not fools. They know when you're not being sincere. We use words like phenomenal, astonishing, and that word awesome for everything. So let's not use such words. Can you give some quick examples of overpraise? Any words which show overpraise? Can we give some examples here? Apart from these, what other words do we use for overpraising, exaggeration?
Exceptional, great,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
commendable, perfect, outstanding, stupendous,
Outstanding.
yeah,
Yes.
wonderful, brilliant,
Yeah, I
ma-
mean, with limits, yes. Of course, we do have only a fixed vocabulary for praise, but use it.
marvelous, yeah,
Marvelous, yes.
spellbound, fantastic, awesome,
Spellbound, okay.
outstanding,
Outstanding is another very, some of
in,
these
yeah, incredible,
incredible, yeah.
marvelous, unbelievable,
Yeah. So these are all examples of hyperbole, isn't it? And
fantabulous.
we should, fantabulous is in fact wrong. We should not be using fantabulous. It's a combination of fabulous and fantastic. Um, anyway, these kind of words, we should use them in within limits. Only when we think they are really warranted should we use these words of overpraise. Otherwise, like I said, you lose your own credibility if you keep on saying, awesome and incredible for every little thing. So you have to be you have to ration the way you use these words. And this is another interesting aspect. Use open-ended questions after you give feedback and praise. For example, Jamal, your classmates were really focused on you as you presented. That was interesting. What do you think you did to grab everyone's attention? So here you are giving praise, which is also implicit. You said that everybody was focused on you. You engaged their attention. That was very interesting. But what do you think you did to engage everybody's attention? So that way you're making the student reflect on what you are praising also, making them think about what they did. And in a way, you're also praising the effort which they've put in. And when we set clear expectations or we set a clear framework, then students know what they have to achieve. So when they know what the standards are, when they know what the criteria for the task is, and they know the criteria for the evaluation, then they know how to work and they know what kind of effort they have to put in. Then after that, you get the positive feedback according to the effort. So it is easier if the student knows what he has to do or what is expected of them. If the framework is very clear and the criteria is very clear, then it makes the feedback and the praise also more effective. This one is a slightly debatable one. We have to be culturally sensitive and age appropriate. What do we understand by this statement? It's a slightly complicated statement. Culturally sensitive and age appropriate. So in your classroom, do you praise all learners in the same way? Now don't give me yes or no. Explain why. Of course, we don't praise all learners the same way. Why is that? How can we be culturally sensitive and age appropriate? Now to think about this, we'll just move on to the next slide. So here we have a variety of points here. We have to vary the praise according to age and level, just as you use differentiated instruction with mixed ability groups. All of us have mixed ability classrooms. We all try to use differentiated instruction to some extent. So the same way we also have to change our praise of different levels of learners. And obviously, we avoid comparisons with other students. This is a very commonsensical thing to understand. Sometimes young learners like public praise. They like to have rewards. They like to be publicly acknowledged. Sometimes teenagers, they prefer it if you go up to them and speak to them quietly and say, you've done a good job. This is why I like what you've done. Of course, it depends on the dynamic of the classroom. This next point is sometimes our praise may reinforce stereotypes related to ethnicity or disability. So you might have ethnic minorities, you might have challenged physically or otherwise challenged learners in your classroom. So we go out of the way to praise learners with such challenges. So is this being really supportive? Or are we embarrassing and making the praise counterproductive? What do you think of this point? I'd really like some answers for this. I know that we are running a little short of time, but could we get answers for this question? We go out of the way to praise learners with challenges. So do you think we are being supportive or do you think it's embarrassing?
I'm sorry for the interruption.
Yes.
I request the audience to post your questions on the chat.
Yeah.
So if you like ma'am to answer some of your questions based on the presentation, I request you to please post that on the chat. Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm waiting for answers for this question. This is my final question, by the way. And it's a little, you have to think about it. We said that we have to differentiate our praise for different age groups, obviously, for different levels, obviously, for different abilities, again, obviously. But when you're dealing with people with challenges, very often we give them extra attention. Yeah, mind blowing, fabulous. I'm getting all those answers now. Yeah. So when you go out of the way and you overpraise learners with challenges, what do you think? Is that really productive or is it embarrassing? Yes, Soosai,
Yeah,
Sam?
depending on situation, that's what someone says.
What do you mean?
Price
There's, there's an
should be
interesting,
genuine.
yeah, there's an interesting comment which says the double-edged sword. Pricing is a double-edged sword. I don't know what he means by that. Sometimes no, it will backfire when you. I think he means that.
Okay. Sometimes it will backfire. Yeah, correct. Any other answers?
Not productive at all.
Not productive at all. Okay.
We must be fair and not make it difficult for the learners.
Mm-hmm.
Boasting always bad.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Sometimes it's inspiring, sometimes it's embarrassing.
Okay, that's an interesting comment, isn't it? Sometimes it's inspiring, sometimes it's so it all depends on how well you administer that praise, isn't it? Of course, you do have to praise, especially somebody who's struggling in the classroom. You have to make sure that his efforts or her efforts are acknowledged. So if that person has a challenge on top of it, then of course you do have to acknowledge that person's effort. Like I said, be specific, acknowledge the effort, acknowledge the process. But if you go out of the way and start saying awesome, awesome for every little thing they do, then it becomes counterproductive. So that is the point which is being made here. Thank you for your comments. And to sum up, educator Henry Seton, who's just a teacher in the USA, he says, be specific with feedback. I put this here because I liked this summing up here. He says, restrict it to one commendation and one recommendation. So don't pile on the praise and don't pile on the suggestions. Restrict it to one commendation and one recommendation. And studies support one simple truth: replacing constant error correction with regular strategic praise is the most effective way for us to motivate our students. And a comment for teachers. This is from The Guardian. You can read it. It's not just students who can benefit from better praise. We should also think about validating the challenging work we do as teachers. Yes, kudos to all the teachers here. Stepping outside of our classrooms, noticing the brilliant things our colleagues are doing, and meaningfully praising others should help us, both of us and our students, achieve more. And with that, I've concluded my presentation, and here are the references for this presentation. Thank you for your responses very much. Sam, should we do the video or should we just go on to Q&A? I think we'll just go to Q&A.
So say, sir, the
Yes,
questions are on
ma'am.
the chat. Yeah, you may take the
Yeah,
question. It's on the
yes,
chat.
yes. So if it's possible, we could also play. It's only 1 minute and
Yeah.
30 seconds video.
So in that case, you play the video and then we'll have the questions, sir.
Yes, ma'am. What do you think?
Yeah, it's up to you, depending on the time.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am. We can play that. We have time, ma'am.
Okay.
So you could play
All
the
right.
video.
So just everyone, there's going to be a small video clip. You'll recognize immediately who it is and what it is. I want you to notice how mistakes are being corrected. And also, second point, do the mistakes come in the way of communication? How are the mistakes being corrected? Do mistakes come in the way of real communication? These are the two things which you need to keep in mind. Yes, thank you. Shall I close this PowerPoint?
Yeah, now we could play the video, ma'am. Yes.
Ma'am, shall I play?
Say it with me. Who is the star? No. I'm the star. I'm the star. You say you.
Sorry, sir. I'm late.
What have you been cooking?
No cooking. Late. Come in.
You may not. Ask me again, Sashi.
Come in.
I can't see you. Are you asking me to come in?
I can come in?
You can. The door is wide enough. But you may not.
Why?
Sashi, you need to ask, may I come in?
Sorry. May I come in?
You may.
May I sit down?
You may.
What a name is. May I send this back to India?
May I go home now?
May I give lift to you?
May I give slap to you?
May I have a coffee with you?
Not today.
No? Okay. May I have a walk with you? But your food.
No. You cooking hotel expert. I'm the in-house cooking very small.
No. Not small. Not small. Food is art.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So if anybody has any comments, they can
Yes,
put.
yes, ma'am. There are a number of questions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for an insightful session on how we should support our learners effectively. So you focused on how mistakes should be viewed as pathways to learning and some of the effective ways of pricing the learners. Quotes by Maria Montessori and Ken Robinson, strategies for a mistake-friendly classroom with a lot of examples, emphasizing Vygotski's zone of proximal development, types of effective prices, and how to implement those effective prices in the classrooms have really made us reflect upon. Now, while we will be taking some of the questions, Dr. Vinod Chopra asks, appreciation boosts the courage of students. Why then most teachers are so stingy to price students?
Yes, I think you should answer that yourself. You should ask the audience that. Yeah, I think it is slightly generic among us to not praise them and not praise them lavishly as well. Either it's, one extreme or the other. Sometimes you hear all these things like awesome and incredible. On the other hand, you don't hear not much of praise at all. So I think we should focus, like I said, on the process and not the product. All of us are looking for end results. We are looking for, what they achieve and whether they'll get good marks, percentages. We are not looking at the effort which is going in there. So I think as a people, we should scale up our level of encouragement and the feedback, positive feedback we give our students. Good point. Thank you.
Yeah. Saumita Sarkar asks, how can you motivate students who are very reluctant to study, learn, despite motivation?
Yeah, there was a point I had made in aspects of handling mistakes, which says you stimulate passion and curiosity among them. So if you have a group of students or even one individual student who is not really keen on what they are doing, you should think of ways as a teacher to stimulate curiosity. Offer them other ways. They might have a different learning style. So offer them different ways of exploring it and coming back to the same topic. Yes, in practical terms, it's very difficult when you have a large classroom. I understand that. But that is the only way to deal with, students who are not motivated. You will have a mixed bag in your classroom of people who are motivated and not so motivated. Another way is to scaffold them. Like I said, put them in the zone of proximal development. Pair them. Scaffolding and pairing came from Vygotsky's ZPD, zone of proximal development. So you can pair them up with another student who is probably stronger and more motivated. That way it will sort of rub off. They'll rub off on each other. That's one way of dealing with it.
Yeah, thank you. And a question from Raghavendra Kumar. Does pricing harm the learners in different aspects?
I do not think so. Whether it's generic praise or whether it's specific praise, praising will not harm the learner. Only you have to be a little moderate in the way you give your praise. Like I said, overpraising then becomes counterproductive, and not praising also becomes counterproductive. So you have to be, you have to take the middle path. You have to understand how and what way to praise and when to praise. But I don't think it's harmful. No.
Yeah. One more question by Dr. Love Singh. What is the role of learners to evaluate the teacher's way of praising for improvement?
Can you repeat that?
What is the role of learners to evaluate the teacher's way of praising for improvement?
Okay, I think he's asking whether learners can give feedback to the teacher.
Yes.
Yes, I think it's a good idea, but teachers have to be open to it. I don't think in many systems we have this the idea of learner feedback, uh, or learners having choice over what they are doing, or learners being able to evaluate what the teacher is giving them in terms of praise or even content. So it's a slightly dicey topic. Yes, we have to sort of change our mindset. Uh, the role learners can be empowered, but again, they have to know where to stop. Because in some countries, learners have complete freedom, and then it goes to the other extreme. So it's a little difficult to control that and to moderate that.
Yes, ma'am. So maybe we will take one last question. This is a question from Vaisali. Does this appreciation works all the time? For example, when the children expect more than appreciation, even for their little effort, how to sort it out?
Complicated question.
Yeah. So,
Can you say that again?
does this appreciation works all the time? For example, when the children expect more than appreciation, even for the little effort, how to sort it out?
Yeah, like I said, you have to be moderate. Effort has to be praised. So it depends on the learner. If you have a learner, for example, who cannot even start the classwork when you're starting the class, a learner who is very distracted, who doesn't even get into the topic or the classwork, and all the other children are writing furiously. And slowly you find that one day this particular learner is actually catching up with the others. So it's a small success, it's a very small win for that learner. Then definitely you do have to praise him a little more, him or her. You have to praise him a little more. You say, yes, Vinod, you have done a good job today. I noticed that you have already covered 3 pages of writing. So in that way, you as a teacher, as a facilitator, you have to have your eyes open and ears open all the time. And that is how you can make this work. Otherwise, if you're going to give generic praise or just generic feedback, it's not going to specifically help particular learners. Yes, I can understand, I can hear you all thinking, but I am a busy teacher, I have so many students. But are we looking at quantity or are we looking at quality?
Yes.
So this is how you have to handle it.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you so much. And there are a number of questions, but I don't think we have enough time to answer all those questions. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your participation, everybody.
Yes, ma'am. So it's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks. It has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful session. On behalf of ELTAI, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed resource person, Ms. Meena, for enlightening us on how to support our learners effectively. I also take this opportunity in thanking the ELTAI's Webinar Organizing Committee for its relentless work in organizing webinars at regular intervals. A wide round of applause and thanks to all the participants who have made this webinar a memorable one with their active participation. Thank you, one and all. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Soosai, for wonderfully moderating the session, for taking pains and asking the questions and explaining. Thank you so much. Dear participants, thank you for patiently participating in this webinar. And this is the webinar for the next week. The webinar is titled Rabindranath Tagore and a Collage of Thoughts, an exploration of Shantiniketan essays. The resource person of this session will be Dr. Meena Bhattacharya, She's a Fulbright scholar, Bridgewater State University, USA. This session will be moderated by Dr. Shabreen Sultana Sheikh. She is from Bapatlal Engineering College and also the convener of Guntur ELTAI chapter. So I request the audience, the participants, to participate in this particular webinar as well and get enlightened. Thank you.